My name is Ryan Bono. Welcome back. Season 2, Episode 6, Walk the Walk. Yes, I'm wearing the same shirt as last time.
Woo!
Did it by mistake, but you know what?
It happens.
We're just rolling
It
with
is a new week, so
yes, exactly.
you
New
did
week,
wash it.
same shirt. It's okay.
It happens.
I might have washed it. Okay, so we're talking about sidewalks today, Cameron Pleasant.
Walk. Talking about sidewalks.
That's right. So, Nomad Capital, they're obviously doing their deal, searching, all that kind of stuff. They find something they like.
Yeah.
How early do they bring us in? Do they bring us in at all? Like, what does that
I
look
would
like?
almost like to say at conception, like once they find a deal and they, they get all their, whatever the acquisition team does, right? They get their feels and their scores. They're like, hey, this is going to be a good building.
Yeah.
They go, hey, build team, you want to go check it out? And we're like, let me check my schedule. I'll make it work. And we go out and we check the bones. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at the bones and just seeing, like, is this going to be a good project? What do we like about what are some things that we can already determine are going to be some issues?
Yeah.
It's always fun in, like, new buildings, old buildings. It's just there's so many different aspects of it all. So, like, old Kmarts to old breweries to, there's just a lot of different buildings out there that we like to walk.
Yeah, a lot of different styles like brick, CMU, wood frame. There's a lot of stuff we can tell from just the pictures, and that's usually when they kind of cue us in. Like when they find a deal that they like, like you were saying, all their metrics and stuff, then typically one of them will be like, hey, check this out. And we'll be like, what do you think about the roof? And, we'll go to Google Earth and we'll take a look and try to see, if it's a recent picture, we can kind of roughly tell what type of roof it is, what the condition is, that kind of stuff. And based on the age, we can tell if it's going to have cast iron drain pipes. We can tell if it might have, contain asbestos. We can tell a lot of these things, the age of the wiring, all that kind of stuff. So it's not an exact science because obviously we're not there in person. We can't visually look at it, but we can have a rough estimate of, what are going to be the pitfalls if we go forward with this building. And then that's kind of like where we start to look at our subcontractor list, like, hey, who do we actually have to bring on the site walk?
Correct.
And I think that brings us to our next phase in this here podcast where we're talking about the actual site walk itself. Do we just call all the subs and have them meet us out there? Or?
No. We got to put our peepers on there first.
Okay.
So we do that little preliminary.
Yes.
Site walk, and it's usually a small team, right? So we'll have acquisition, maybe someone that found the deal, you and I, and I don't know, maybe a site super, and one
Possibly.
of the
It
owners.
depends on how tricky it is.
Yeah. It depends on how far it is, who's got time in their schedule. But we want to get eyes on just to see, like, okay, is this something that's doable, right? Like, we know the numbers make sense.
Yep.
Right? Because they have a budget at the beginning, right? Like They have a budget
rough
per square
budget.
foot. Yeah, like, okay, what are they missing, right? So as a construction team, we got to make sure they have everything identified, like, because what if they're missing something on that budget? Like, this could be a make or break, right? So we got to go out there, put our peepers on there first. And once we get the green light, then we start thinking about scheduling another sidewalk.
Right. We're looking for major red flags that's like, hey, this deal only works if the roof's in okay shape, because a roof could be extremely expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, we know we're going to do, like, the most expensive line item is storage. Well, we're going to do that, right? But it's like, hey, we don't have, if the footprint is 90,000 square foot and we only have about like 100 or 200,000 for the roof, like, that's a make or break kind of thing. If the roof is just absolutely gone, it's leaking all over the place, well, that could be, $700,000. It's like, okay, that's a huge red flag. Like, we have to really consider if this is worth doing or not. So I think that's what we're looking for, like massive roof issues, structural issues, like has the foundation settled beyond repair? Like everything is figure outable and we can repair it. It's just, do we have the money in the budget? Does the deal still pencil?
Yes.
I think, which is what's unique about Elm Builders and Nomad Capital. It's like, we want to save money on the budget, and we want to help them underwrite their deal for it to make sense, because it's all the same company.
Head height's a big one too. Especially if they're dependent on the mezzanine, right?
Yep.
Like this only works if the mezzanine works, So it's like, okay, we got to make sure we have the clearance there. Yeah. And that is hard to tell from a photo. So you got to go up there and like, oh, they have drop ceiling. Okay, what's above the drop ceiling? How much space do we have there? So that's when we have to go out there, just do that little preliminary walk and make sure all those boxes get checked. Like, okay.
Yeah.
with the rough numbers.
And we've been there counting bricks on the outside, like, okay, but you never know where the slab is on the inside, so you're only taking a guess.
That's true.
So, yeah, it really helps when we do our preliminary site walk with our crew. And then, once we give it the green light, then what happens?
Oh, my goodness. Then a waterfall of events take place. It gets to a pre-construction and
Template,
a click up, and
checklist.
boom, you got a checklist of, I think it's like 54 things.
Yeah,
if not more.
Well,
don't quote me on that.
So there's 54 tasks, but then there's subtasks in those tasks. I think we counted one time. I think it was like 140 something.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's fun times. So I mean, that just like, we've done a good job of collecting data over all the projects that we've done, right? And like some of the questions that one project we've done, like, hey, we should have thought about that at the beginning. So that's kind of what this pre-construction checklist is like all these questions that we previously had on any other project or shortfalls or issues that we've seen, we want to bring over, like, now let's get those issues addressed up front, right?
Yes.
So meeting with the building department, with the TRC, getting a feel for them, like, how easy is it going to be to permit in here? Can you do owner's permit, or do you need a license, GC? Like, what are those? So those are just some of the checklists, along with, okay, set a site visit date, a 360 walk, a 360 recap with the owners again. Yeah. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Book an Airbnb if it's far away. It's a pretty robust checklist.
It is very robust. I mean, it covers everything. But it's also always growing, right? So we'll walk into this, and we will walk away from Florence with the information that we go, okay, that needs to be added to the checklist, So it's just one of those things that we go through, meet about every week, and say, okay, we're looking for a site visit around this date. Now we're working backwards. Okay, let's just go through this list and start crossing things off.
That meeting, the pre-construction meeting, would you say that's a meeting or a workshop?
That's a workshop. We got the ClickUp open, and we're making phone calls. Like, hey, phone calls, emails, we're looking to get this accomplished at this date. Hey, can you make it? We're also brainstorming, like, who do we want to send? Who do we want to bring down there? Who needs the time? Oh, and also, a lot of times, these places that we go into, like, they're active, right?
Yes.
They have active tenants in there. Yes. So we have to be aware of that. Like, is this coordinated with them that we can do a site visit? We're going to bring 15 people, 16 people onto the job or into your store.
Yes.
Will you allow that?
Yes. And we have to navigate the conversation in a way that it doesn't make it abundantly clear that we are going to essentially demo the interior and come back with storage, because sometimes the employees don't know that building is for sale. And
Correct.
So that's the owners of that business don't always like for their employees to know based on our site walk. They want to sit them down and tell them the right way.
Yeah.
And so we just have to navigate that conversation. It's happened a couple times where we're just saying,
construction updates.
Construction updates.
Yeah. Because, I mean, they're under due diligence, right?
Yeah.
So the deal could fall through. Right?
Yeah.
You don't want to worry someone for no reason.
Yes.
But yeah, so we just have to be cautious of the current vendors and how we walk them.
Yeah.
So we've broken it up into 2 walks. Day 1, we have the ownership, we have the management team there. We do what we call a 360 walk. Mm-hmm. We start at one point from the outside, walk the entire outside of the building, then we do the same thing, repeat on the inside. This just gives everyone the same opportunity. We all have pieces of paper. We're walking through everything, saying, hey, look at this area. Okay, this was section 2 or whatever, And we're going through the whole outside, just, coming up with ideas and brainstorming, like, hey, what do we want this overall to look like, right?
Yeah.
Because at that point, our budget's not finalized. These are things that we need to take into consideration when we go to that next step. So we take a look at the outside, and we move on to the inside, get everyone's opinion. Boom, day 2, now we're bringing the trades in. Now we already have an idea of what the ownership wants, what we're going to turn this building into. Now we just convey that to the trades. Like, hey, this is what we're looking at doing. Concept-wise, what do you think we're working with? A number, and that's where it really gets hard, because we don't have any plans yet.
Yeah.
But they just got to be believers with us and, take this journey, do a sidewalk, because they're going to be the subject matter experts. So when they look at these old RTUs or HVAC units, it may just be like, you're right on the cusp. You're probably going to mean this, or this unit doesn't even exist anymore. You're going to have to upgrade this. So this is just all very valuable information, especially
there's no more parts left for this equipment. Like, it's hardly working. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay. Then we know. We got to replace it, because it's not going to be reliable for us. Yeah.
And the good thing is that we do our homework before we even go in there, and we try to find local subs, right? We do love bringing the subs that we worked with previously onto the site, because we know their pricing a little bit. But if we work at a new municipality and we bring a sub that's from there, they can let us know a little bit more information about like, hey, yeah, the plumbing inspector is going to be really hard, or I've seen that before and we've had to change that out. You know, so this is just all great information to have from someone that works in that area and that can bring that source for us.
That's exactly correct. Not only are they going to know about permitting and inspections, but they might have actually worked on the unit before, and they know, like the HVAC unit. It's like, you know, we just were recently in contact with a guy who had been servicing the particular unit that we were looking at saving, and he's like, it's not worth it. You know, the thing is on its last leg. And like same with the roof, like we've reached out to local roofers who are like, oh yeah, I've been patching that roof for the last 10 years, man. That thing needs to be replaced. It's in terrible condition. It's like, okay. Yeah, like that's an advantage of having local subs. It's like they might have actually worked on the building and they know exactly what's going wrong with it.
Yeah, especially like with fire sprinkler. You know, they always leave their tag, leave their information. HVAC usually does a great job, and electrician. So I mean, hey, there's your contacts right there.
Right. Yep.
Previous to this, I think it was just maybe one site walk, but now we've realized we need more time. Like there's a lot of information going on, especially with your city storage there. We have the Nomad, the ownership team there. So there's a lot of different ideas going around, like, hey, let's do a ramp here. Or, hey, let's talk about a mezzanine there. You know, so there's just a lot going on, and then trying to throw trades in that in one day is just a lot of information. So, yeah.
Great. So let's just name a few subcontractors that we bring with us.
Your MEPs.
Yep.
So your mechanical, electrical, and plumbing.
Yep.
Right, and then you have, you know, your trade guy, your jack of all trades, your demo, your framer type of caveat, a little
drywall painter.
Yeah, drywall painter. He does it all.
Yeah.
That's always a good one because, you know, as we walk, we may not have the like what exactly we're gonna do or the demo of all that. So it's nice to bring them on. Just to give an idea, like, hey, this is what we're thinking in this. How many bodies you think?
Right. It's not a particularly skilled trade. It's, you know, especially for what we're doing, self-storage. It doesn't have, the walls don't have to be dead straight. You know, they just got to look good.
Because also the floor, like, we don't know what we're going to do with the floor until we kind of get on site and realize, like, let's demo this floor. Let's change up what we're going to do here. Yeah. Fire suppression, definitely. And then,
what about the design team?
Design team's got to be there.
So your architect, your MEP engineers, structural engineers. So they all come and check out the building too. That's usually a big indicator. There's 125 pounds per square foot is what's required for storage.
Yep.
So when you have a single story structure, that's usually not a problem because you have a slab. And that's going to be more than enough to support 125. But when you have certain levels, you got to make sure that they're structurally sound, or we have to reinforce them. It's not a huge deal to reinforce something; it's just very expensive. So we need to know that up front.
Yeah.
We're doing it at Kernersville right now. Wasn't
we did.
Yeah, wasn't terribly complicated, but it was a lot of work and it cost a lot of money.
Yeah. Some other ones, obviously our site super, so we usually try to pick, I think we like to bring both of them down, just depending on what they have going on, but definitely our seasoned John Sir, we like to bring him down because he's been doing this for a while. Getting him, especially if he's going to run the site, it's best to have him at that initial walkthrough, just so he can put his peepers on and understand what, you know, so nothing gets lost in translation, especially, you know, like, hey, the ownership wants to do this, and if he wasn't there, how would he know? But we do a good job recapping everything usually. Yeah,
and then two of our biggest line items, roof and storage.
Roof, yes.
So roof and storage, we love to bring roofers. Even if the roof looks okay, we kind of want to know what the life expectancy is. There's some telltale signs that we kind of know to look out for, but it's just nice to have a professional's opinion. And storage, you know, that's the biggest line item, so we love to have somebody from storage out there and taking a look. You know, we don't often do structural storage because the warehouses that we are buying have their own roof structure and whatnot. But, it's just good to get their opinions. Like sometimes they have to use different fasteners for different flooring.
Yeah.
So it's nice for them to know that ahead of time. Also head height clearance for certain areas. Some areas are lower than others, like basements like Burlington or the mezzanine up in Gastonia. Like, it's just nice to have them out there and be like, just make sure, because there's so much going on. Like, it's just nice to have everybody double checking measurements and whatnot for us. All right, Cameron. So we do the preliminary site walk.
Yep.
We do the subcontractor site walk with the design team, the ownership. And then obviously those are great days. We get back to the office, and then what happens?
We're back into click up on the pre-construction, really going through. We're just gathering information, right? We're hopefully trying to get some numbers back, just an idea, right? We're trying to get a rough numbers back from our subs, what it's going to take, just because we're going to have a budget review at some point, to see where this actually pencils out from everything that was discovered on that sidewalk.
And they're rough numbers from our subs because we don't have any
correct. We don't have any
drawings.
Plans or anything like that, but these guys have been in the game long enough that they have somewhat of an idea.
Exactly. It takes 4 to 6 weeks to produce an architectural set of plans. So while we're waiting for those plans to be developed from the design team, then our subs are giving us rough numbers based on what they saw when they walked the site.
Correct. So we have a 360 recap. So we'll sit back in the office. We're in the building's not, we're no longer at the building. We're at the office. All the ownership is there again. City storage is there. We'll kind of just go through that list that we created of the exterior and the interior, just confirm everything. Okay, this is what we wanted to do here. This is what we're demoing this door. We're going to make one entrance, one exit. We're going to put cameras here and there. So we're just pretty much recapping that whole thing. So now the construction team has that locked in, and that's what we're moving forward in. That way, anything down the road, hey, that's going to be a change order. That's where we're slabby with the change order.
Yeah.
But we get that information. At the same time, we're corresponding with our trades, just trying to gather more concrete numbers, as I said. At that point, we'll pretty much have a meeting with acquisitions to go over the construction budget. Say, hey, this is where we had it at.
Yep.
Let's compare what you guys see as a construction team. Once that is all done, and we've had the information from the municipality, we've had TRC, we've talked to them, the building department. A lot of this is just continued communication until this project kicks off, really.
It's just a bunch of developments, one after another.
So once we feel like we have a good bit of information, right, like we can make a decision, then we set up what we call a CTJ, right? And that's going to be the deciding meeting, right? The ownership's going to be there, city storage, once again, everyone's going to be there. We're all going to present our case, right? We're going to say, okay, this is where the construction team is at on budget. We can make this timeline. These are the changes that we've anticipated for. This is everything that we know about this building. Will it pencil now? Is everyone on board with moving forward on this, or do we want to back out?
Right.
And that gives everyone in the room an opportunity to, hash it out and say, hey, what about fire suppression? That is going to be one that haunts me because, that I remember sitting in a CTJ and they looked at us and said, how do you feel about fire suppression? I said, we're good, man. We are good. Has that come to bite us back? Yeah, it is. We were not good. So, but we learned.
Yes.
We learned from that.
Yeah.
So
once we learned and we implemented a new system to kind of cross-check that.
Absolutely. We did. So then, we've said, okay, this project gets the green light. What are we doing now?
So the project got the green light.
Say, go.
Everything's looking great. Then we have what's called a one-day payday, right?
Yep.
At this point, we've purchased the building, and we have an internal review with just the construction team. This is, the acquisitions has kind of fallen off. Ownership's already given their sign of approval. We own the building. Now we have a one-day payday. And the term is, or the slogan is, it pays to be prepared. That's
right.
why it's a one-day payday. It doesn't go over one day, but for this one day, all we're doing is talking about that one project.
Correct.
Phones are off, otherwise, all that kind of stuff. And we go to the job site. We take the plans, we take our preliminary schedule, we take the budget, and we basically go to the job site and we say, what is it going to take as far as the schedule to pull this project off? How much money is it going to take, and where can we save money? Because we, based on the plans and whatnot, we're going to see, okay, we're going to be over on the roof. Okay, well, where can we save money, right? Like, what hallways do we have to paint? Like, all that kind of stuff. We're just trying to, flush out the budget. Also, on the one-day payday, we're calling local subs and trying to get people to meet us there for certain portions that we still have question marks on. So that's pretty much the gist of the one-day payday. We did it at Florence for the first time, and we just loved the outcome of that meeting.
Yeah, it was like a trial run, right? So the construction team's there, our site supers are there. the brain trust, right? The brain trust is there, and okay, we're walking through everything. Okay, what is the first step of the project? Okay, we got to get the roof, we got to get the building dried in. Okay, how long is that going to take? We're also at this point, we're making calls to the roofer. We're like, hey, this is roofer I'm hiring. How long is this going to take? Or this decking's bad, or whatever needs to happen. So like, we're actually kind of going through a mock in our head, like, okay, and building out the schedule per that, and that way, everyone that one day payday actually. We walk out of there with a schedule, with a budget, with an idea of where we're going to move money around for the foreseeable future. So it's such a wonderful tool.
Yeah, and it's like you said, the site supers are there, and it's us there, and we're all agreeing. Like if we don't feel good about the schedule, like what can we move up or what can we move back, and then same with the budget. It's like, okay, we all walked away and we all agreed that this is the right plan.
Yeah.
Now we're locked in with our site supers because it's so important to be on the same page with them, and so we're on the same page. And also another portion of it is like we're past the dreaming phase, right? We're not dreaming about we can do this here or we can do that there. It's like, here's the plans, here's our budget, and now it's like, now with our site supers, I think the site supers love this too. It's about getting the work done.
Yeah.
Like, we're not dreaming and talking about, this wall would look great blue. It's like, no, we have those set of plans, and this is what we need to execute, and now it's go time. It's no more theory. It's actual production that we're moving into. It's a whole new phase.
Yeah, and another thing that we do bring down with us is that 360 recap that has been finalized.
Yes.
So when at the one day payday, when we're walking around, we're like, hey, what did we decide we're going to do with these doors? Well, on 360 walk, we decided to nix them, or we're going to paint them blue, or whatever it may be. And that way, it's like having the owners there already because we've already agreed on everything.
Right.
It's like, okay, this is what we know we're going to do.
Yes.
This is your script. Follow this and the plans. If you have questions, I mean, these are together.
And so, for those of you who don't know, the 360 stands for doing a 360 rotation around the outside, where we literally walk slowly around and we talk about all these things that when we lock them in. Yeah. And we go around the interior and we do the same thing interior. So we've walked the entire property with ownership. Yeah. And that's what the 360 stands for. Yeah.
And so really, you would think that's where we kind of fall off, or that's where the project begins. We kind of take a back seat to that, but we don't. You know, nope. There's still so many more walks ahead of us, right? It's not just the beginning initial walks. Where else do we have these walks taking place?
Yeah, I mean, it's we usually walk after demo. Yeah. Because now the walls are open and we're taking a look at like all these things that we couldn't have anticipated, right? Sometimes the walls are structural, sometimes they're not. Things are just not as they seemed. It's just really common with demo. So typically after demo, we'll do a walk. And then it's roughly every, month and a half. Our site supers are there every day working real hard. Yep. And usually they give us a heads up like, hey, I think you should come out and check out these 8 items. Usually we won't come out there for one item unless it's really super important. But I feel like our supers are really good at letting us know when it's time that we go out there, put our eyes on it, because it is hard to keep in touch and know exactly what they're talking about when we haven't seen the building in 2 months. So it's really up to the supers and our discretion kind of throughout the project. I would say if it's about a 10 or 12 month project, after we do the walk after demo, we'll probably be there 4 more times roughly until kind of near the end, which is then our punch list site walk. So a punch list is basically a laundry list of items that you need to get done. And this is all the little stuff like install door stoppers on the door, paint the door hardware is damaged, replace the door hardware, that kind of stuff, where it's like, okay, getting the electrical installed and ready for the HVAC equipment is way more important than painting a door, putting a door stopper on. So these are the things that, while they're important, they're not important to progress the project in a massive way, right?
Correct.
If the electrician doesn't get his electrical in there, the HVAC guy will not be able to start up his HVAC, all that kind of stuff. Like for the door stopper, I mean, you can install that at any phase in the project. You can install it on the first day or the last day. It won't affect anybody. So that's kind of what happens at the punch list. It's, making sure like all of your finishes, all your walls are painted, all your baseboards installed, paint touch-ups. What else is on a punch list?
Well, I mean, it's really like the functionality, right? Like our goal is to get to overheads, put the units in, and get our inspections passed, right? But like our site super has been there since day one on the site. So he sometimes gets blinded to like some small little paint detail or like how this door is operating.
Yeah.
Right. So like it's our job to go in there with fresh eyes and be like, okay, like how does this function? If I'm a customer, right? You got to put yourself in the customer's shoes now. And if I'm a customer, if I'm walking up this ramp, oh, okay, I tripped on that crack right there. Is there something that we can do? Like, let's add that to a punch list. Or like, how does this bathroom feel? Like, can we paint the tile? So really it's just like the functionality, because you want to make your customers happy. And there's a lot of times that we bring city storage in there and they do site walks with us, do an office layout. Like, hey, what you have your customers coming in, what do they want to see when they first come in? Do they want to see LVP, or do they want to see, a glossy hallway? How does that all function? So really that's what that punch list is all about, is like getting to this now a functional spot where not only are we, getting the project done and getting it finalized, but now we're making it an actual business, and you can walk in there and be happy with the product.
Right, yeah. And sometimes, city storage will add things onto the punch list that we never thought of, or Eric and Levi will come by and they'll see things. But you're totally right. Like every day if you walk in a door and it goes clunk, 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 and you're doing it day in and day out for, 180 days, like it just becomes normal. Yeah. And it's just like, I suffer. Like if we all walk through a space, like me, you, Eric, Levi, John, whoever, like we're all going to have different punch lists. We're all going to see different things and feel different ways about stuff. But it is super important to get a list of things that we need to get finalized to feel good about opening up a facility.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah,
so punch list, those walks, it's really usually 2 walks, right? We identify all the areas because these buildings are so big.
Yeah.
It takes pretty much a whole day to do a punch list. And then after the punch list is, relatively complete or fully complete, we'll go out and walk again. And then usually there's one final walk.
Yeah.
Where we're basically walking through the facility and just big smiles on our face. We're about to get CO, or if we got CO, and and then,
talk about opening day. We bring city storage out, like, hey, because they got things they have to set up, right? Yeah. So they're going to come out, set up whatever they need, their cameras, their monitors, desk, and all that. But also, once again, an opportunity to find, like, hey, we need to put routers here, or we want to set up a cooler here. Like, we're missing something. Like, we need to add something to the tiny little punch list or something like that. But really wanted to set it up, for now, the handoff, because once again, we're going to hand this off to city storage, and they need to be in a good spot with the building as we hand that off. Yeah. And so we have them. They come out and give us the A-OK.
Yeah, and usually they need us to hang up some signs and whatnot.
Signs,
and just get it.
Some numbers.
Some office, just get buttoned up and ready to be open for business.
Yeah, so, a lot of walks.
A lot of walks. How many walks do you think for one project?
Oh, one project?
How many
Cradle
times?
to grave?
Well, you weren't there at the beginning of Kernersville.
No, or Lexington.
Yeah.
I've already been to Florence, maybe 7, 8 times.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
We're like just getting out of demo.
Yeah.
I would say
that's more than typical. I think for Kernersville, I don't know. I might have been there about 10 times already. Gastonia, I was there probably 15 to 16 times.
Well, don't get me wrong. I love going to Florence because there's a Buc-ee's right there. Yeah. So, anytime I need to get beef jerky, I'm like, hey, Ryan, I got to go to Florence. Oh, man, Dave's killing me. I got to stop by Buc-ee's.
Yeah, you like the fudge. Burlington, though, I was only there probably 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it just depends.
The project's going to tell you.
Yeah.
Right? And the location of the project, like what's going on there, like how big is the scope, who do we have running it? So it's just a lot. There's a lot of information.
I do remember walking Burlington one time, and it was like everything looked amazing.
Yeah.
I was like, man, John doesn't need me. And I just walked, me and Levi walked out of there, and like, John's got this project. Yeah. Like, it's just, it's just the timing sometimes where, luckily sometimes our site super, they only have one project, and then they're just on there every day, just totally taking care of it. Yeah. And it's like, they've got it handled. I don't want to micromanage them. And I think that's what Burlington was.
Yeah. What is your favorite walk, you would say? Is it the initial? Is it the 360? I know what mine is.
My favorite walk. Mm-hmm. That's a great question. The subcontractor one is chaos. It feels it's very hard to wrangle everybody in at the same time. I do love that, but probably I would have to say probably after demo.
Okay.
I just building. Like empty building. You've gone past all the dreaming stuff, and it's like time to execute. Yes, it's a little bit daunting, but I just love looking at like a blank canvas and being like, okay, it's game time. Yeah. Like, let's go.
You can identify a lot with that blank canvas. You're like, oh, that's going to be an issue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's you see a lot of hurdles and stuff, but it's like, it's like we own this building. It's full, like we're committed now. Like there's no going back now. I really like that, and just to be like, man, this is our project. Like, okay, that's probably my favorite.
Okay, I'm gonna say after like a week or two after hallways and doors have gone up.
Okay.
Because I love like walking into a building and not realizing where I am.
I was just about to say that.
Like before I used to be able to walk from here to point B in like 1 second. Now I'm like, okay, where am I at? I've seen the layout many times, but it's just like, I am so lost. Like, John, where are you?
Yeah.
You have to like, it's so much fun, especially at Kernersville. I walked in the other day, I was like, this is all new.
Yeah.
this is all new. Okay, now how do I get to the office now?
The basement was I was so disoriented. I had no idea where I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so much fun to me. Just be like, oh my gosh, we did this?
Yeah.
This is crazy.
I know.
And that's when it like starts to look like self-storage.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is self-storage.
That is a good one.
It's a fun one. I love it. Well, thanks for listening,
Yeah.
I think that was episode 6. Walk that walk. And we'll see you on the next one.